Why, hello there, everyone. Today, I am checking out the patch notes for Season 2 of Gundam Evolution. I'm currently live streaming, so don't mind the live stream setup. I'm recording this at the same time as streaming to just knock out two birds with one stone. But I haven't read it yet. However, I clicked on the link to make sure it was working the day it was posted, because this was posted a couple days ago. But this isn't really late because this patch is actually going live on the 30th, and I'm reading this right now on the 27th. So we're still ahead of the game here. And this will coincide with the new Gundams edition and also the colony map. And I already have a video for that on the channel, dissecting the new Gundam and colony map reveal. So you can go watch that if you want. So I'm mostly going to be paying attention to the balance changes of the other things in the game. Things that are in the game already. Season 2 period. So there's going to be a maintenance on the 29th. And it's apparently going to last into February 1st, which is my birthday, actually. And, yep, obviously new units, new Gundam. And I'm not really going to... If they have a section here talking about the new Gundam's abilities, I'm just going to skip over it because, like I said, I already commented on the new Gundam's abilities on the reveal video, in the reveal video. And is this for a new Gundam, or is this what I'm actually looking for? Yeah, so the colony trading post, I already commented on that. Spectate feature, okay, finally. I was watching a tournament today, and there's no spectate feature, and what they were evidently doing was having some of the participants, the actual competitors, they were streaming their gameplay to Discord, and someone was streaming their screen capture of watching them on Discord, and they were swapping between the two streams, and it looked like a blurry mess because Discord's live streaming sucks because it's some kind of automatic bitrate, and one of the players was an Exia, and having the camera move around all over the place, it was such a blurry mess. So I don't know why it took them this long to put a spectate feature in. Set a coach to each team, letting them watch from each team member's perspective during the game. So that's like spectate, right? Maybe coach is for a specific team, so that way you can't screen peek the enemy team, right? That makes sense. Timeout. Lets players pause the game during custom matches. Okay. I haven't really messed with custom matches yet. And I guess that would also pertain to room IDs if you're making like custom matches. Change player name. Okay, you can change your player name now. You can change it once for free, but subsequent changes will require Evo coins. Okay. Balance patch notification. Okay, so that is the other link I clicked on. Season reward titles. I was just talking about this on the stream. So I heard from someone, from an unofficial source, stating that they read from an official source that based on your reward, or based on your rank at the end of the season, you get different rewards. And I just recently hit plat, and I would like to keep playing ranked to get my rank higher and higher because I haven't really plateaued yet, but I kind of just want to sit on it now that I got plat because I don't want to risk dipping into gold for a moment and then having the season end right before I get back to plat, right? Because I don't know if it goes by your highest rank achieved during that season or if it's actually your current rank, in which case I'm just playing it safe and I'm just doing casuals until season 2. I've been reset, obviously. Titles will be applied. Yeah, so these are like the titles they were talking about in the video that are kind of like titles you get in fighting games, which you unlock by doing things, I think, if I was understanding that correctly. Season pass. Okay. Again, they really need to completely, maybe not overhaul, but they need to do something with the way they're monetizing the game and distributing these unlocks and stuff, especially when it comes to the actual playable characters, the playable mobile suits. But again, that's a topic for another video, so let me check out this. Okay, this is what I was actually looking for. Finally found it. 5 minutes in. November 30th. Yep. Okay. New Gundam. Describing his abilities. This was actually the link I looked at originally, the one that I was talking about previewing when it was first posted. So again, this is just stuff that was talked about in the video, so I don't really need to comment on this because I haven't really had it in my hands, so I don't really have a real opinion on how viable this stuff is yet. But if you want to hear my impressions, I have it on the other video. This is what I actually just glanced at, and then I decided to stop reading because I wanted the rest of the patch notes to be a blind reaction for this as I'm recording. So I glanced at this and I saw Pale Riders getting nerfed quite a bit. The 10-minute average of damage and repair volume was 4,000 to 5,000 higher than other shooting units. That does seem statistically significant, but is it really that big of a deal? The heal volume of the repair pod was also higher, so we will adjust the main weapon and repair pod to balance the unit with other units. So it's kind of hard to argue with them when they are pretty much purely basing this on stats. You know, because stats don't lie. Stats don't ever lie, but the interpretation of data, the interpretation of stats can be wrong, even though the stats themselves won't lie. But them just looking at the stats, seeing that it was such a higher amount compared to other shooting units. So when they say shooting, they're talking about non-melee, right? You can't really argue with that, but it is kind of lame that the heal is getting nerfed so much, because even as someone that doesn't play Pale Rider, everyone, including myself, is going to feel this, because if you have a Pale Rider on your team, he won't be able to heal you with his repair pod as much anymore. And even though they're saying that it was higher, the heal volume of the repair pod was also higher. I don't know what they're saying this was higher than, because obviously with the damage, you're able to compare that with the 10-minute average damage of other shooting units. Okay, that's self-explanatory, right? But when they say the heal volume was higher than what? Higher than the healing of other shooting units? Because not all shooting units have healing, right? Jim has a health grenade, but that's obviously not supposed to be as much healing as a repair pod because you can throw it from across a ways, right? And I guess they're not comparing it to the Methis because the Methis would always out-heal a Pale Rider, right? Even though the Methis shoots. And Unicorn, honestly, if they see that this thing heals more than the Unicorn, I don't think that they should nerf the repair pod. I think the Unicorn should heal more. But I'll save more thoughts for the Unicorn when I actually look at the adjustments for the Unicorn. I just think it's weird because whenever I step on a repair pod, yeah, it does heal me significantly, but it always seems to go away so fast. It never felt as if it were OP, right? But the heal per second is going down. It's almost cut in half, right? And then the cooldown is increasing as well. And the machine gun damage is going down a tiny bit. This doesn't look very significant, just going from 60 to 58. But I think that it means 60 damage per bullet per hit is going to 58 per hit, and it has a pretty high rate of fire, so that actually would add up to be significant, but not as big of a deal as the repair pod change, I think. My brother's definitely not going to like this, though, because he liked playing Pale Rider whenever he didn't have to play healer. Zaku 2 ranged. Wait, did I read this? It was one of the top units in terms of both usage and damage in all rate bands. Yeah, so this is the second time they're nerfing Pale Rider, because the last time they nerfed him, they nerfed the ult. They nerfed the Hades system. They didn't change the Hades system per se. They just made it take longer to accrue meter for it. So you're not going to be activating it as much in any given match. But now they're targeting the other thing. So I guess they'll be happy with how he is after this, but I'm thinking they might double back on the repair pod and buff it just a little bit to make this not so drastic. Haven't been able to play since the last beta, but maybe the reasoning is to make Methis, or however it's spelled, to be more used. You don't recall it being a popular unit when you played. And that could be because people just don't want to play a unit that is specializing in healing. Maybe not because it's bad, but because maybe few people gravitate towards that kind of gameplay. Because obviously the devs can look at the stats, right? I'm glad they're not just looking at the usage stats. Like, for example, I'm glad they didn't say something along the lines of everyone's playing Pale Rider, which means he must be OP, so we're going to nerf him. They're saying the average damage was higher, regardless of how many people play him. So I don't know if they're really going to change things based on wanting each character to be played well or played commonly. Methus isn't really that rare, but I do think Methus should be better. My brother who plays Methus, so I don't really ever play Methus. I touched him in like the beta, but whenever my team doesn't have a healer for this season, I play Unicorn because Unicorn's a healer, but I find Unicorn way more fun than Methus, right? Methus can technically heal stronger. The whole trade-off is that the Unicorn has spread healing. Anybody near him has passive healing, but it's obviously not as strong as getting healed by a Methus because a Methus is single target healing, right? So I still think the Methus is supposed to be the premier healer in the game, in which case I think instead of nerfing other people, they just need to make the Methus stronger. Because my brother, when he's playing the Methus, he's always talking about how it feels a little underpowered. And I'm just, you know, going on good faith here since he plays Methus and I don't. It's a way better way to go about it. Overwatch balancing is really bad for that reason. I stopped playing Overwatch before they completely overhauled Mercy, but the way they were changing Mercy seemed like a really bad philosophy in how you should balance the healing units. But anyways, Zaku 2 ranged, combined with the situation where the use... You know what? Before I read this, I should guess if they're buffing it or nerfing it. Originally, I think the Zaku should have been buffed because he ran out of ammo so quickly, but since then, they gave a semi-universal buff to everyone in terms of ammo capacity. So he might be fine with that now, but also Zaku 2 seems pretty popular. So I'm going to guess he's getting slightly buffed. Let's see if I'm wrong. Combined with the situation where the use of incompatible units was increasing. Incompatible units? What do they mean? Combined with the situation where the use of incompatible units was increasing. Both the usage rate and the win rate were low. Really? I thought the usage rate were higher. I'm not surprised about the win rate being low. The DPS of the machine gun, the main axis of damage, has been increased. Called it. It is a buff. I'm happy about this because I love the Zaku's kit, but it always feels so underwhelming when you go around and you get a good flank and then you completely empty the drum of the machine gun and then you immediately have to reload and you didn't even finish them off after emptying an entire drum. So I think this is good. And the ability to defeat enemy units at close range by continuing to hit them has been improved. So is there like a stacking damage multiplier if you continually hit them? I didn't know if that was a thing already. This is kind of implying it already was a thing, but I didn't know about it. But on the other hand, the magazine firepower has been reduced. So does that mean the amount of ammo? They did. Okay. That's actually good, though. If you're increasing the damage and balancing out by decreasing the ammo, that's actually still a universal buff in all regards, because it means you're going to at least get the same amount of damage out, but in a faster rate, like in a faster, shorter duration of time, right? That's your favorite unit too. I think the Zaku has one of the best kits in the game. It's really fun, but it just always seems like a stupid idea to pick Zaku because it's so hard to really get anything done with him. He's really good at escaping. The one thing that Zaku is good at is being able to just activate smokescreen and then dash out of there with his 3 dashes, because whenever a Zaku hits you and then you get him really low, he just runs away and he's always not worth chasing. So he's survivable, but he can never really exert very much influence on the game, I think. Necessary to fire at a more appropriate range than before. Okay, so yeah, this is good. So I would assume that at worst, you're going to do the same amount of damage, but in a shorter duration, because you're going to deplete the ammo faster, but they do more damage. At best, you're doing more damage and in a shorter duration, right? Heat Hawk Slash, point required to activate. They're nerfing the ult. It's the worst ult in the game. We'd like to improve the DPS of the Zaku machine gun, but not to increase the turnover rate of the Heat Hawk Slash too much. The amount of points required to activate it will be adjusted slightly. Okay, I don't really know why they're doing this, because like I said, it's the worst ult in the game, which I think is fine because it's very on brand for a Zaku to have kind of a throwaway ult that doesn't have any kind of team coordination at all. You just slash the Heat Hawk. I think that's on brand, right? I think it makes sense that the Turn A should have the strongest ult in the game, and the Zaku should probably have the weakest. But the whole trade-off was that even though it's the weakest, you get it very quickly, right? So you can just throw it out, and then it doesn't really matter if you whiff it completely, because it's not as if your team would really be able to capitalize off of it anyway. So I don't know why they're increasing that. I kind of disagree with this, but I don't think it matters much anyway because his ult wasn't good in the first place. This is obviously overall a buff, though. Barbatos, I'm guessing another nerf. He got his HP buffed. Reduced damage of the... so they reduced the ult damage before. Due to the reduced damage of the longsword, it is assumed that it takes longer to defeat an enemy, and the number of shots taken will increase so the HP was increased. Okay, slightly. Oh, wait, no, they're talking about the ult being nerfed this time. Direct hit damage. Wowee, half the damage. But on the other hand, expand range of direct hit in front. Okay, so increasing the hitbox size, shortened post-motion delay. Okay, so increased hitbox size, decreased recovery time after each use, and the cooldown is shorter. You're talking about the ult, right? Actually, no, I don't think that's what longsword is. He uses the sword in his ult, so that's why I assumed they were talking about the ult, but I don't think that's what it is. I don't think I ever noticed he was using anything other than the mace for his regular kit. Because I was about to say, there's no way his ult's on a 7-second cooldown. We anticipated a basic combo that started with the mace, yeah, but made this change because most players use the longsword to engage. That's really funny that they expected a certain combo, but people are doing a completely different one. Most of the time, giving them the ability to defeat enemies in one go. Yeah. How did you guys not find that in playtesting? We lowered the damage output, but increased the direct hit range in front and reduced... I don't really know if I like increasing the hitbox size. It probably is just to make it feel better to play. But honestly, decreasing the damage so much is maybe going to stop all of these touch of death combos. Lowered the damage output, but increased the direct hit range in front, and reduced both the cooldown and the post-motion delay in order to curb its burst damage. Okay. That's going to be really hard to balance, though, because Barbatos is supposed to be an assassin, right? He kind of has to have good burst damage, but maintain its position as a frontline engagement unit. I don't know what's making them think it's a frontliner when it is purely melee and can get shot up and has, like, no defensive abilities at all. We'll keep the explosiveness of the unit by adjusting the Alea, I forgot how to pronounce that, Vinyana system. Whenever I watched that show, I was always like trying to listen really hard whenever they said it out loud, and I could never figure out what the correct way to pronounce that was. So this is the ult. So the ult got buffed. Downed enemy goes from disabled to instantly destroyed. Okay, so it's more of an execute now. Hit stop. What do they mean by the hit stop? Like the hit stop when you're going through an enemy was decreased by barely even a noticeable amount of time. Who's going to notice that? 0.03 second difference to hit stop? Required points to activate that. Oh, I don't know if I like that. That's a pretty big buff. It's so hard to counterplay against his ult already. Him getting that more often is going to be scary. I'm just going to say AV system. The AV system can only be activated 3 times, and even if an enemy unit is disabled, it can easily be recovered. Not if you just activate it on them again. Thus, we are changing this to be the same as the longsword, which instantly destroys enemies instead of disabling them. I don't know what they are smoking with this one. This is definitely the most controversial one so far. Although it is assumed that the amount of points gained will decrease due to the adjustment of the longsword, we would like to maintain the current turnover rate of the G maneuver. So we will adjust the amount of points required to activate the maneuver. Okay, well, we'll see how that turns out. Sazabi, I'm going to guess the Sazabi's getting... It's hard to say, because he's played pretty commonly, because he's such a good anchor on a team that every team pretty much wants one. But whenever I play as him, he doesn't really feel that great because I feel like he doesn't really have much outplay potential aside from just getting a good flank with the tomahawk throw. So I'm going to guess Something about him's getting buffed. Shot spread. Called it. Okay. At first glance, reading that the shot spread was reduced made me kind of think it was a nerf. But I saw the arrow pointing up, meaning it's a buff. So that must mean, oh, okay, so the damage is more concentrated in the middle. So he's going to be able to actually down enemies faster, right? Assuming your aim is somewhat decent. But the spread on that thing was already really big. I don't think decreasing the shot spread is going to make it much harder to hit things. Also, maybe this will make it easier to hit enemies far away from him because, like, obviously Sosby does a lot of damage if you're kind of up in his face, but if you're just, like, slightly far away from him, you kind of do no damage. Due in part to the environment of higher usage of fighting units, the usage rate, win rate, and overall results were also low. I think when they say fighting units, they're talking about melee units, right? And Sosby gets destroyed by things like Barbatos. I think that's what they're talking about. By improving the bullet collection value of the beam shot rifle, we will make adjustments to improve damage by allowing enemy units to hit multiple rounds. Allowing enemy units to hit multiple rounds at close range. By improving the bullet collection value, like the concentration of the beam shot rifle, we will make adjustments to improve damage by allowing enemy units to hit. I think they mean to get hit by multiple rounds at close and medium ranges before they get too close. I think that's what they mean. I'm going to sort of make assumptions here because the translations on this website have never been good. Methis. They're nerfing Methis. Acquired points to activate the energy cable. His ult. Although the unit does not have major problems as a unit, it had a high number of activations for a powerful G maneuver. About 4.3 per 10 minutes on average. So we will adjust the number of activations to be on par with Turn A's Moonlight Moonbeam Butterfly. I don't think the Methis ult is nearly as strong as Moonlight Butterfly. So it makes sense that this should activate more often than Moonlight Butterfly. But I guess they don't want it to be more than that. So I guess in their head, the energy cable is just as good. Moonlight Butterfly is about 3.7 per 10 minutes, okay? Hearing that the Methis ult is 4.3 per 10 minutes and Moonlight Butterfly is 3.7 per 10 minutes, that sounds perfectly fine to me, but they don't like that, so we'll see. Dom Trooper, that's a lot of text. I think the Dom Trooper is actually really good, and I don't think anything about him needs to be buffed except for maybe the speed of the rockets or maybe the AoE of the rockets. I think the rockets should be buffed in some kind of way, but other things I don't think he needs to be buffed at all. So I'm thinking if it's pertaining to the rockets, it's a buff. If it's anything else, it's a nerf. In the diamond and above rate range, it ranks second in usage rate and third in kill-death ratio. Okay, it doesn't sound OP. Its damage and other results are not different from those of other shooting units, but its high HP, various skills, and G maneuvers make it a valuable contribution to the team in areas other than damage. Yeah, the G maneuver makes him so good because it stalls a point for so long. Maybe they could decrease the duration. Among them, the armor gun is especially compatible with fighting units, yeah, and shield carrying units that maintain the front line. It should be, though. The armor gun should give way more armor on someone than anything else, than something like a unicorn, right? Because the whole point of the armor gun is that you can use it from far away, so you have to preemptively use it. You have to actually think before you use it, right? When you're unicorn, if you see a bunch of people are in range, you pop it, right? And you know most people are going to be getting a good benefit from it, especially since it lasts a long time. But the Dom armor gun, it's kind of like burst damage, but for defense, it's burst defense, so you have to actually time it well, because it's a really fat shield, but then it starts decaying really fast. So I think that's the trade-off, meaning it should be good. And shield carrying units that maintain the front line, yeah. And in the current environment, where fighting units are widely used, the armor gun has a synergistic effect, okay? Don't see the problem yet. Therefore, we are adjusting the cooldown of the armor gun to reduce its performance by about 25% from Season 1, and we are modifying it so that it can no longer perform adequately unless it is more accurately given to allies. Okay, so they're going to make it harder to hit allies with it. I thought they would have nerfed the G maneuver, because I think it lasts too long. That's a pretty giant nerf to the armor gun. Turn A. They're increasing the startup of the judo throw? What? I think they should just get rid of the startup period. I think when you do the throw, it should start up immediately. It was difficult to avoid when it was done at close range. Yeah, that's when you're supposed to use it. So the time until it is triggered has been extended to make it easier to avoid. I think they should get rid of the startup. If you get that close to a turn A, I think you deserve to get thrown, right? That's the whole point. It's supposed to be a counter to melee units. It's supposed to be a counter pick. And in a lot of these other rationales, it sounds as if they don't like how commonly used the melee units are being. Like, a lot of these nerfs and buffs are being done in accordance with how common the melee units are being used, and Turn A was specifically created, according to them, to be a counter to melee units. You'd figure they would be counterbalancing this by buffing Turn A, not nerfing him. Gun tank players stay winning. They're buffing the damage for... well, it says multi-lock damage, which makes me assume it's his regular click. But it says Bop missile. These aren't missiles, though, are they? I always thought these were guns. I always thought these were... I think in the original Gundam, they actually shot beams, but I think they sort of retconned it into being live ammunition, because the gun tanks in Gundam The Origin shoot live ammunition. So I thought those were machine guns. It even sounds like a machine gun, right? The damage to disabled units is 30, so we are revising that to 21. The same as normal damage. Okay, so it's a buff to the damage, but a nerf to the damage when you're shooting a disabled unit. Okay. I don't think it really needed that, because I think why it was fine, I didn't even know or realize that the gun tank specifically had an abnormal damage buff when it was attacking a disabled unit compared to everyone else. Same as normal damage. Maybe that is a universal thing. The whole point, though, is that because the gun tank doesn't have good burst damage, he only has good sustained damage. If a gun tank were to try finishing off a downed opponent, it would kind of take a while, and not only would it take a while, but by the time you finish them off, you would accrue a lot of heat on your guns. And then if you were to do another fight immediately after that, you wouldn't really be able to fire your guns very well because they were already hot from finishing off a downed opponent. So those reasons alone made it where you never really wanted to finish off a downed enemy anyway as gun tank, because it was rarely ever worth getting your guns hot. It was always better to just let your guns cool down and let someone else finish off a downed enemy, or just leave them and hope that none of their teammates get them up. So I would assume that's why he had some kind of damage multiplier when they're downed. Maybe everyone has that multiplier as well. So I don't know why they decided to change this. I don't think it'll really make that big of a difference, though, because like I said, it's already such a not good idea most of the time to finish off downed enemies as gun tank. You're not really going to be doing it anyway. Adjustments will be made to enable more damage than before when many enemy units can be targeted. And performance will be enhanced by switching between multi-lock and concentrated fire mode. Okay, so I'm thinking they just want to make more of a difference between the spread damage and the concentrated fire mode. Because the whole point of concentrated fire mode is that you're only targeting one enemy, but you do more damage and have better range. I kind of hope they increase the range of the concentrated fire mode. It's weird. They're not really specifically saying what they're doing about this. They're just saying, like, yeah, we're going to make changes to that. But mention it here, since these are the patch notes. Exia. I'm thinking Exia is getting nerfed because Exia seems to be more prevalent than Barbatos. When comparing the unit's performance to other units, it was not a unit that was able to do significantly more damage than others in each rate band. We believe that the unit's superiority in this situation is due to its footing, including its step skill, which allows it to easily jump into enemy territory and escape. Okay. Main weapon, the GN Beam Dagger, has 20 to 30% lower damage than the main weapons of other units, and adding distance attenuation to this may result in excessive adjustment. So we have decided not to make this adjustment. Okay, why are you talking about it then? However, this is a point that we have received a lot of feedback on, and we'll keep an eye on it as one of the items to consider along with the implementation of reloading. Reloading? So what are they saying here? What do they mean by distance attenuation? Be back later? Okay. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this one in the comments once I put this on YouTube. Beam Saber, hit stop, okay. The same sort of tiny little hit stop adjustment that they did on the Barbatos ult. Cooldown if cancelled is increased. Hit stop during trans aim was a bit much. That's going to be so not noticeable though. Adjusting it to be the same as the GN Sword and GN Short Blade, okay. Increase the risk when canceling it because, comma, it can be activated too easily with little risk when canceling it as well. Okay, quick step cooldown. Despite its low HP compared to other units, it has fewer deaths. Partly due to its small size, but also because of its mobility thanks to its 3 steps and 2 movement skills. The quick step is a useful skill that can be used for both escaping and adjoining battles, and in this regard, the cooldown is extended to limit the number of times it can be used conveniently. I think I agree with this nerf. Don't really know what to think about the other ones. The reduction in the number of boost steps will be carefully considered. When they're talking about boost steps, they're talking about the universal boost mechanic. I don't think they should reduce it from 3. Like, XE is supposed to be in the higher movement tier, as it'll have a significant impact on fighting units that are characterized by their good mobility. Marseille. So they're going back to buffing Marseille? They do not know what to do with this thing. Shorten the post-motion delay when a sidestep cancel is not used after the beam blade. Okay, so they're just decreasing the recovery time after the beam blade. So you can do your combo faster, essentially. A hero has to get buffed, right? Yep. Detection range for explosion from 20 to 180. So if they're that far away and it triggers the explosion, Rendo Grenade is the regular attack, right? Your regular click. If they can proc the explosion from that... But wait, no, a grenade doesn't explode when it's close to an enemy. It explodes when it hits the ground? So it's going to explode before hitting the ground? We aim to improve its damage performance and its suppressing power in tight spaces by extending the sensing range for detonation. Don't really know how that'll help. It's just going to explode a little bit before hitting the ground because it bounces off of a surface once, right? Bounces off of a surface once, and then the next thing it hits, it explodes? Or is it actually based on proximity to enemies? It might be. I never noticed, right? Because 20, it might seem like you have to pretty much be touching it. But 180, it'll seem as if it's proccing the explosion from a noticeable distance away. But is it so far away that you could just walk away from the explosion and then the hitbox doesn't even hit you? I don't know. Saga 2 melee. They already nerfed the ult, and I think he doesn't seem I don't know if it's a matter of him actually being balanced now, or if it was because of the classic tale of having an OP character that everyone's playing, and then as soon as you nerf him, everyone's being melodramatic, saying, oh, you ruined him, I'm not playing him now, right? Because no one wants to play a character that was just nerfed. I don't know about if this will be a buff or nerf. Although both usage and win rates dropped slightly after the adjustment, the October 27th adjustment, that was the last patch I was talking about. The impact on matches in the Diamond 4 and higher rate ranges continues to be high. Okay. So it had a bigger effect. The nerf had a bigger effect in high-level play. We have determined that adjustments are necessary. The main adjustments will be made to the availability to maintain the front line based on HP and the ability to reverse the situation with the G maneuver. Reducing his HP, but increasing the armor gain on activation. Increasing the cooldown of the guard tackle. Its highly versatile movement ability can be used offensively or to escape. So we will make adjustments to increase the importance of using it in more suitable situations. Okay. Nerfing the ult again. This time you need a bit more points to activate it. I think that's good. Matchmaking. Okay, so I guess those are all the balances to characters. I would love it for them to buff the unicorn somehow. Not that I think the unicorn's bad, but I think it needs an adjustment. So for example, the unicorn has 800 HP and is kind of slow. So I'm thinking if he's going to stay that slow, you should increase the HP to maybe 1,000. I understand the whole reason of him being low HP is because he can put a shield on himself at will, right? And he might be too tanky if he has 1,000 HP, right? So that's why I think it would be more likely that they would, and also should, just increase the movement speed of the unicorn slightly. Because the whole point about the unicorn is that he wants to stay in sort of a very central location to his team, so that way he can be healing and shielding as many teammates as possible. So he tries to find some kind of midpoint in between everyone. But it is so hard to actually keep up with a moving team as the unicorn because the unicorn's so slow. So I think they need to just increase the base movement speed of the unicorn a little bit. But again, I know they don't really want to make him too fast because his whole point is that he can add shields and he's a support. So he's supposed to kind of be a vulnerable target. But if you can't keep up with your team to heal them, then what's the point, right? So I'm thinking they should increase the movement speed a little bit. I would be okay with them nerfing the shield a little bit if they buffed the movement speed and maybe buffed the healing a little bit as well. Again, like I said, I do well with the unicorn. I perform really well with the unicorn, and I see other people do well with him, so I don't think it's underperforming. I just think it needs to perform better in certain areas and maybe as a trade-off perform worse in other areas, so that way it'll actually fulfill the archetype that it's supposed to be a little better. I can't believe Guntank's getting buffed, though. Because I still think Guntank's one of the best in the game, which is why I keep playing him. In terms of the matchmaking, in Season 1, there were many problems with matching and ratings, and we have made numerous corrections and updates to the system. So, an update on the Season 1 matching situation. The average waiting time for a match was about 40 seconds during high player traffic periods. When is that? When is it ever a high player traffic period? About 3 during low traffic periods. Average rate difference between the two teams was less than 100 in about 87% of the matches. In approximately 76% of the matches, the party composition of both teams was the same. Okay. The accuracy of the rate difference in party composition was still insufficient. I was assuming that's just because the player base is low, right? Make the following adjustments to the matching and rating systems in order to achieve more accurate and fair matching, and to improve the appropriateness of the rate fluctuation when winning or losing a match. Okay. In order to address the fact that there are still many matches with different party compositions, resulting in dissatisfaction with the difference in rates and party compositions, the following improvements will be made. Revise restrictions on party participation in ranked matches. Adjustment of logic to make it more difficult for party and solo players to be matched. Okay. So they're just kind of speaking in general about what they're doing here, because either they don't want to show you the actual specifics, or maybe it would look like too long of an equation and they thought people wouldn't want to see that, even though I do. I would like to see the full algorithm they use in matchmaking. Improve the accuracy of matching with less differences in party composition, and also improve the poor playing experience for solo players who are paired with some party comps. Okay, makes sense. Rate fluctuations. So these are comments they've received. Complaints about the fact that the higher rated players in a team have a smaller rate increase and a larger rate decrease than the other player. Fundamentally, that'll have to happen, right? When there's a gap between the ranks of the two teams at the time of matching, the amount of rate fluctuation is not satisfactory. Complaints about the amount of rate fluctuation when a player leaves in the middle of a match and loses, that one does suck. I would like the rate fluctuation amount to reflect the content of play in the match. I agree with that as well. Like, maybe they could have an algorithm about, like, kill participation or how much time was spent on an objective or interacting with an objective. Maybe they could, to an extent, have some sort of algorithm in play to give you more rank points if you had a high participation with that stuff, or maybe less if you had less participation. That's going to be a lot more difficult to measure, though, obviously. More difficult to measure than just if you win or lose, right? The dev team is aware of these comments and issues, and we are currently working on modifications for each of them. We apologize that we are unable to resolve all of them at once, but we will be addressing mainly points 1 and 2 in Season 2. Okay, so this isn't going to be immediately on the patch. I guess this is just a agenda setting speech saying what they're going to be working on during the season. Revision to required points for rank and tier promotion. Okay. So I'm in Platinum 4 right now. How many points do I have? I don't think it tells you the actual number for some reason. I was going to see for reference, like, if I would be in Platinum 4 with the amount of points I have now if I were in Season 2, but there's no way for me to look. Diamant. Diamant is obviously some kind of a poor translation, but it sounds kind of cool. It kind of sounds like one of the many poorly translated Maverick names in Mega Man X. Like, imagine there's some kind of ant Maverick, and it's Diamant, some kind of diamond ant. That might be cool. If they want to plagiarize a poorly translated version of the Gundam Evo patch notes. The initial rating for new accounts will also be changed. Okay, none of this really matters to me. Reinstating placement matches. Placement matches were put on hold. Oh, I forgot about that. They're going to reinstate placement matches. Okay. In the new season, players joining ranked matches will first participate in 5 placement matches. Their rank and tier will be determined after the 5 placement matches. Okay. Okay, so after reset. So if I'm Plat 4 now, I'm going to be reset to Gold 2. I'll be able to get back to Plat 4 so quickly, and I'm going to obviously keep on trying to climb because I've only been playing the game for about 80 hours, and a lot of that time was spent playing casuals to knock out, like, the daily challenges and stuff. So if I actually commit to trying to climb, I bet I could actually maybe get kind of high. Because I haven't even plateaued yet, right? Like, obviously, getting platinum in this game is a lot easier than getting platinum in League of Legends, for example. New modifier. Special correction will be applied to the first 50 rounds of ranked matches to increase the amount of rate fluctuation. Okay, so if you're a new player, so that way you can get to where you need to be faster. This correction will be applied to players who have been playing since Season 1, but have participated in less than 50 ranked matches, yeah. Parties cannot play ranked matches together under any of the following conditions. The difference between the highest and lowest rated player on the party is over 1,000 points, okay? So no parties of 5. There is a diamond or higher player in the parties, a diamond or higher player in parties of 4 or more, huh? Okay. I don't feel like reading that. I don't really care about this stuff. Actually, this might be... I should check. I'm making a team for the showdown, and I need to make sure we're actually able to do a pre-made with each other when practicing. And so that would require me checking each of our ranks to make sure no one's, like, too far apart. I was trying to shoot for people of a similar rank, like high gold, low to mid plat, but I'm obviously not going to argue if they're higher than plat. So I need to go check. That just reminded me. Okay. I'll leave a link in the description if you guys want to read the rest of that, but I was mostly concerned about the balance changes. That's what I wanted to look at. And like I said, some very questionable things here, but I am going to be enjoying those gun tank buffs. At least until they realize that gun tank is actually really good and he doesn't need the buffs. So I'm happy about that. Biggest L is probably Turn A getting nerfed for no reason. I'm thinking they're going to rebuff Turn A after the fact. I'm thinking they'll eventually realize that the throw needs to be a lot better. Maybe it'll just take them a while to realize that. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about the patch notes in the comments. And with all of that said, I will see you guys later. So bye for now.